Now, it goes without saying that we've covered a lot of ground in this course, from foundational concepts to regulatory expectations, from daily operations to strategic planning, and from historic crisis to future-facing technologies. We've explored liquidity risk management in banking from every angle. And now, in our final session, it's time to bring it all together. In this session, we'll take a step back and reflect on what we've learned. We'll identify the core principles that underpin strong liquidity management, highlight the skills and mindsets required of today's liquidity professionals, and set out a roadmap for continuous improvement in a world that never stands still. By the end of this session, you'll have a complete view of what it means to manage liquidity risk with integrity, confidence, and strategic foresight. So let's begin by summarising the framework we've built. At the core of liquidity risk management is the ability to meet obligations as they fall due in all conditions without relying on extraordinary support. Now, this simple definition has many layers, from calculating cash flows and managing buffers to understanding funding markets and responding to stress. We've seen that liquidity is both quantitative and qualitative. Metrics like the liquidity coverage ratio and the net stable funding ratio provide important benchmarks, but compliance alone isn't enough. Banks must understand their own liquidity profile, how funding behaves, how assets can be monetized, and how decisions made in one part of the organization affect the whole. They must use stress testing, contingency planning, and behavioral analysis to go beyond the numbers and prepare for the unknown. We've explored how liquidity must be managed at different time horizons. Intraday to support payment flows and operational continuity, short-term to manage outflows and maintain buffers, medium and long-term to align funding with strategy, business growth, and regulatory expectations. Each horizon brings different risks, tools, and governance requirements. We've examined the structure and function of Treasury, the nerve centre of liquidity. We've seen how Treasury interacts with markets, manages funding, prices liquidity internally, and operates under both normal and stress conditions. We've also looked at the critical role of risk and finance and the need for coordination across functions, legal entities, and jurisdictions. We've seen how liquidity is a regulatory priority, with detailed expectations across the UK, EU, and global frameworks. From ILAPs and PRA 110 returns to stress testing and recovery plans. Supervisors require banks to demonstrate control, resilience, and foresight. We've discussed the importance of alignment between ICAP and ILAP and the growing emphasis on governance, culture, and data integrity. We've explored the tools banks use to manage liquidity. Funds transfer pricing to allocate cost and drive behaviour. Contingency funding plans to prepare for stress, liquidity forecasts to anticipate change, collateral platforms to unlock funding, dashboards to provide visibility, and increasingly, we've seen how technology through AI, automation, and real-time infrastructure is enabling smarter, faster, and more integrated decision-making. We've examined the complexity of operating in a cross-border world where liquidity is not always fungible. We've looked at ring fencing, currency mismatches, and the importance of local buffers and intra-group support. And we've recognised the importance of systems, communication, and governance in maintaining group-wide resilience. In recent sessions, we've looked ahead to the impact of CBDCs, real-time payments, climate risk, and ESG expectations. We've seen how the future of liquidity will be shaped by technology, sustainability, and policy shifts. And we've discussed how Treasury and risk functions must evolve, not just to keep up, but to lead. So where does this all leave us? What does it mean to be a liquidity professional today? Well, first and foremost, it means embracing a multidisciplinary mindset. Liquidity isn't just about funding or finance. It's about strategy, systems, people, regulation, and markets. The best liquidity professionals are curious, collaborative, and commercially aware. They understand the details, metrics, models, and mechanisms, but never lose sight of the bigger picture. It also means becoming fluent in data and digital tools, whether you're building forecasts, analysing stress results, or explaining buffer movements to a regulator. You'll need to work with complex data and increasingly to do so in real time. Understanding how data flows, how models operate, and how systems interconnect is no longer the job of someone else. It's part of the core skill set. Being a liquidity professional also means becoming a strong communicator. Liquidity issues often emerge in high-pressure situations where decisions must be made quickly and clearly. Whether you're speaking to ALCO, reporting to the board, or briefing a regulator, your ability to translate technical issues into business terms will shape how decisions are made and how risk is managed. It also means embracing a risk culture that values challenge, transparency, and accountability. Liquidity risk can be subtle. It often sits just beneath the surface until it doesn't. Being willing to speak up, escalate concerns, and test assumptions is part of your role. So is helping others across the bank understand liquidity and how their decisions affect it. And finally, being a liquidity professional means thinking long term. Liquidity is about more than daily cash balances. It's about trust. Trust from clients that their money is safe. Trust from regulators that your firm is well managed. Trust from investors that you can honour your obligations. Building that trust requires planning, preparation, and a mindset of continuous improvement. So what should you do next? If you're just starting out in treasury or risk, take the time to build your foundational knowledge. Learn the language of liquidity. Understand how funding works. Get familiar with your bank's policies, metrics, and systems. Ask questions. Read reports. Sit in on ALCO meetings if you can. If you're more experienced, look for ways to enhance integration. How well do treasury, risk, and finance work together? Are your models consistent? Are assumptions aligned? Can your stress scenarios be improved? Look at your FTP framework. Does it reflect current market conditions and strategic goals? If you're in leadership, think about culture and resilience. Is liquidity prioritized across the organization? Are contingency plans understood and rehearsed? Are the right people empowered to act during a crisis? Are your teams ready for real-time liquidity management, for ESG-linked funding, for the expectations of tomorrow? And for everyone involved in liquidity, keep learning. This field is evolving, and it's evolving fast. Regulatory priorities shift. Technology advances. Market structures change. Staying ahead means staying curious. It means benchmarking, networking, testing ideas, and reflecting on lessons from the past. And as we conclude this course, remember this. Liquidity risk management is not about avoiding risk entirely, it's about understanding it, preparing for it, and responding with discipline and agility. It's about balancing confidence with caution, opportunity with responsibility. And it's about recognizing that in a world of complexity, the ability to act calmly, wisely, and decisively is what defines a great liquidity professional. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Whether you work in treasury, risk, finance, regulation, or beyond, I hope this course has equipped you with the insights, tools, and mindset needed to manage liquidity in a dynamic global banking environment. You now have a framework to guide your next steps. So all that leaves me to say is all the best with your continued learning in the world of liquidity. Stay informed, stay engaged, and I hope to see you inside another Industry Portal course in the not too distant future.